Your Monday forecast calling for a slight chance of a shower early, then scattered showers and storms in the afternoon. Otherwise cloudy, a high around 82. Monday night showers, maybe a thunderstorm before midnight. Cloudy skies with a low of 63. Tuesday chance of showers, then scattered showers and storms in the afternoon. Mostly cloudy and 84. On Wednesday, much hotter. Chance of showers and storms late day, mostly sunny with a high near 90. From BlueRidgeLife.com, I'm forecaster Tommy Stafford. Now back to Joe Thomas in the morning.
Joe Thomas in the morning. Thank you for letting us be of service to you on this Monday morning. And, of course, it is Holocaust Remembrance Day. And I begin with this not because it is the most breaking news story, but it's something that has been left kind of quiet in the mainstream press. It doesn't seem to be the lead story, which you would find to be interesting considering this past weekend, how many college campuses, the past week and a half, college campuses embroiled with the protests for Palestine. And of course, on this Holocaust Remembrance Day, and as we go through the issues that we're seeing across the country, let's not forget, how the two stories are going to intertwine with one another, let's just say. So let's begin with the protests at the University of Virginia grounds, where on Saturday, after an 8 a.m. announcement that tents that you can see there had been put up illegally against the order of the university, you can see a protester there concealing his identity against Virginia law, they were ordered to disperse. They were declared an illegal assembly. Tear gas and pepper spray were deployed by state troopers along with paintball guns to try to disperse the crowd. And while that was all going on, 25 people were arrested at the University of Virginia grounds. And here's Sunday. See, can we go back to the Sunday picture there for a moment? Let's go back to our graphic from Sunday. So you may say, well, gee, Joe, that looks like a group of people protesting against the Israeli existence. On Sunday, I thought you said that Saturday there was an illegal assembly called and everyone was dispersed. Well, they were. And then they came back, just like they came back at many other campuses. Now the Justice for Palestine group is insisting that there be no final exercises for the University of Virginia because that's what they want. They want to cancel final exercises for the students there, regardless of, as long as the Jewish community is allowed to continue to exist. They don't want anyone to have anything anymore, apparently. You can ring in on your thoughts on this and the confluence of all these stories, because sometimes I'll agree that sometimes I see things that everyone else doesn't, and that's fair. 434-882-4217 is the phone number. Emails can come into jtinthemorningradio@gmail.com. And we got lots of other stories to get into this morning, but I just thought, as we watch certainly the conflagration at UVA, many people now taking to social media, ironically, to compare the end of this occupation of the UVA lawn to the end of the David Duke reunion concert that was held on August 12th, 2017. Trust me, I was there. Do we have to? I know I didn't say it in advance. There are many captured moments with my head, because apparently white supremacists and Antifa are all like 5'5", because my head is sticking up like I'm some sort of Shaquille O'Neal character on those riot days here in Charlottesville. But many people are now comparing the two events to one another. Ironically, of course, these were David Duke Klansmen, modern-day Nazis themselves, getting together and protesting much in the same way that the pro-Hamas protesters are. Interesting that. If you're wondering about that picture, that is Adolf Hitler and the Muslim leader, the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem, Hajj Amin al-Husseini, Hajj Amin al-Husseini. That's November 28th, 1941, at the Reich Chancellery in Berlin, discussing what to do with the Jews. And like I said, sometimes I see things that maybe not everyone else does, maybe not everyone else is comfortable pointing these things out. But understand the East versus West realities of this. This is authoritarian, dehumanizing authoritarianism, dictatorship, anti-woman, anti-gay, you name it, they're against it. Unless it's that, master race of people who are the chosen ones, and these are the only ones who are allowed. And the rhetoric is very similar in both cases. And to be fair, on this Holocaust Day of Remembrance, remind the Jewish community of Germany were the middle class. They were the shop owners, the shopkeepers, the bankers. And they were targeted because while Germany was falling into horrible, horrible economic disaster, people were going to cash their paychecks at lunchtime so that they could buy groceries with money that was going to be 20% less valuable by the time they got off of work. I mean, any of this sounding familiar? Target the middle class, point out the middle class, say those middle class people they're keeping from you because they're the rich people. Any of this sounding familiar to you? And eventually it got to the point where, at the behest of the Reich, Kristallnacht. And then the Jewish community was told by the German government, you're not safe here. Come with us and we have a place where you can be safe. You can see how that turned out. So on this Holocaust Remembrance Day, understand that the Jews weren't necessarily ideologically targeted by the Germans. But since they were going after them anyway, the German chancellor sat down with the leader of the Muslim community of Jerusalem to work out a deal, since they hated them theologically and the Germans just needed an enemy, that maybe we could work to common purposes. But the Jews weren't sent to the prison camps. The Jews were told, come with us where you can be safe. And of course it turned out after the fact that the brown shirts that were causing the riots in the Jewish communities in Berlin were sent there by the Reich and then arrested by the Reich themselves to make it look above board. The SS comes along, Gestapo, and starts arresting all the brown shirts for what they did during Kristallnacht, which was ordered by the Reich themselves, to get the Jewish community to say, well, I mean, it's just a train ride. And so, yeah, on this Holocaust Remembrance Day, let's remember man's inhumanity to man, but remember what drives man's inhumanity to man is authoritarianism, is man's inbred despite towards individuals, to the idea that the individual can be free, and it's often just the politician that wants the easy hit to say, it's not our fault that you're poor. Oh, no, it's not our fault at all. It's those shop owners. It's the business people. Again, I'm asking you if any of this sounds familiar as we talk about greedflation. Remember greedflation? That was only 2 weeks ago. We were told that inflation was not because our dollars were becoming Weimar Republic marks in our devaluation. We were told that the greedy shop owners are the reason you're poor. And that you need to be more understanding of people. You need to be more open-minded. Freedom of speech doesn't mean you have freedom of speech. It means you must allow everyone else to have freedom of speech. And this is, what the protesters at UVA, back at it yesterday there, were saying, is that they want to tell you what to do. Not that they want to actually have to be beholden to anything of their own. They just want their way. And unfortunately, mankind has been doing this forever. There's always somebody who wants their way. There's always somebody who wants to invoke their ideology or their governing structure on someone else. And that's why this country's experiment in freedom put limitations on people's power. Because when you concentrate power in just a couple of pairs of hands, eventually their hatred, their jealousies are going to start to become manifest in government. And you're going to see how that turns out. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. As Martin Niemöller said, first they came for the trade unionists, and I said nothing because I wasn't a trade unionist. Then they came for the socialists, and I didn't say anything because I wasn't a socialist. Then they came for the conservatives, and I didn't say anything because Trump. I mean, we can modernize it. Niemöller himself told that poem, read that poem multiple different ways, depending on where he was speaking and what was needed to be said. But why not? Why not do a modern retelling of the poem? Then they came for the Republicans, but I said nothing because of Trump. Because it's always about you. It's about your independence. It's about your liberty. It always is. It has to be. Otherwise, we know what happens.
This is the Racing Wire Minute with Brian Belansky.
you-know-who didn't do you-know-what at Miami. That story next.
She can stand, she can do more. Like build a rocket and watch it soar. Clean the oceans and make the world a better place. Oh, she can stand.
Learn more at She Can STEM.
Going into Sunday's Miami Grand Prix, Max Verstappen had won 19 of the last 21 races. The conventional wisdom was that Miami would be more of the same. Verstappen was on the pole and won the sprint race, and he was on the pole for the Grand Prix. Enter McLaren, and a big car update, and Lando Norris felt his car was up to the task. During the race, the McLarens had the pace to keep up with the Red Bulls, then Norris took advantage of a mid-race safety car to take the lead, and Verstappen just couldn't catch him. Norris won his first Grand Prix in his 110th attempt after finishing second 8 times. Verstappen finished second. Charles Leclerc was third.
Your Monday forecast calling for a slight chance of a shower early, then scattered showers and storms in the afternoon, otherwise cloudy, a high around 82. Monday night showers, maybe a thunderstorm before midnight, cloudy skies with a low of 63. Tuesday, chance of showers, then scattered showers and storms in the afternoon, mostly cloudy and 84. On Wednesday, much hotter, chance of showers and storms late day, mostly sunny with a high near 90. From BlueRidgeLife.com, I'm forecaster Tommy Stafford. Now back to Joe Thomas in the morning.
Joe Thomas in the morning. Thank you for letting us do what we do for you each and every morning at 434-882-4217. Getting closer. We finally put the new radio station's website up and running because we're taking comments, suggestions, things from you regarding who you might want to hear as other hosts besides this. And so please, by all means, go over there or go to our Facebook page. There are links to the question, which is, who do you want? Who would you like to listen to in this launch? And we're putting together news teams and everything else that goes into it while we battle with the bureaucracies of the FCC. We'll get primaries continue. The early voting started in Virginia's 45-day crazy election season on Friday, and the voting continues there. Center for Politics weighing in, mansplaining the polls to us. By the way, I want to get into the coverage over the weekend. RFK Jr. has a bold, perhaps Hail Mary attempt to square off with Biden before November rolls around. Henry Cuellar, the renegade Democrat representative from the borderlands of Texas, has all of a sudden been arrested over the weekend for connections to foreign governments and to take money from foreign governments. Yet Hunter Biden remains at large. Also, I don't know if you saw this, but Special Prosecutor Smith's case, Mr. Anderson, Agent Smith's case is coming apart. Apparently, his own investigators are saying, we misled the judge on several things. There's a story out of Missouri where Missouri school district is taking taxpayer money to pay parents to, from where I sit anyway, to be parents. Chris Cuomo has admitted that he is vaccine injured. Somewhere a unicorn has pooped a rainbow. And I want to. We can obviously get back into the illegal assembly, the anti-Israeli protests, the marches, the fact that they came back, that they're back again, what they're demanding from the river to the sea on this Holocaust memorial day, this Holocaust Remembrance Day. But I want to jump to a local story that has gripped a lot of folks. It's not 6 miles from where we're sitting right now. A plane crash came down, and this plane crash brought down a small private plane in the woods. You see it there, of Fluvanna County. That's the flight from Flight Tracker there. The crews responding to this, the scene of the crash. You can see the Flight Tracker here. Hi. But the Flight Tracker that you see right here started up in Manassas and came down. And this was right about the time that there was a storm coming through Fluvanna County, and that may or may not have played a role in what brought down the small private plane there, taking the lives of both people on board there. Several of our followers on Facebook, anyway, are family friends of the pilot. Said he was local to the area, I guess, or at least to the central Virginia-ish area, and it's tragic. And apparently they were, according to the flight plan that was filed, flying to an area near the Outer Banks, South Carolina area, for perhaps a week vacation or whatever. But they were flying. They had left early Sunday morning by about 9 a.m. Several witnesses reported to me that they thought they heard thunder, but now are thinking it was the sound of the plane crashing. In these storm squalls, we had several instances of some fairly heavy rains during the overnight hours, and this was a particularly squallish period of that rain. We don't know. The authorities have not released any information regarding the folks in the plane, because next of kin hasn't been announced or contacted yet, but the remains have been taken to the medical examiner's office in Richmond, but no one on the ground, luckily, was injured. The crash, as I said, about 6 miles from where we're sitting right now doing this program, just east of Palmyra, Virginia, where it came down in some woods just north of one of the area crossroads that goes through there in the area of Miles Jackson Road in Palmyra. So again, prayers to the families as they're finding out about what's going on, and are going to try to put everything back together. A horrific way to start a week, if you can imagine. Just, this is the worst news you can begin to hear is this flight that was going to go from, looked like Manassas Airport to South Carolina, on the South Carolina coast, cut short just over Fluvanna County yesterday. But that's the latest from the crash scene. As I said, the flight plan you can see in the that's the crash scene itself, but you can see in the flight plan it was heading down and then kind of turned back in the storms that came up right there. You can kind of see it turn up at the very end there. So we'll keep you up to date, but nothing else to worry about on the ground anyway through that. And I unlike a lot of a lot of media folks who would just sit here and repeat that story 6 times, I'm comfortable saying if we hear anything new, we'll bring it to you. But that's the latest as of right now. I want to take a moment on this abstraction of distraction that is RFK Jr. held a big announcement last week in New York City. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., of course, running as an independent in the run for president. His announcement was that he wants to commission a nationwide poll of 30,000 registered Democrat voters, and that he wanted to he wants he and the Biden campaign to co-sponsor this mass poll, to hold it in the summer, early summer, before the conventions all begin, and have it be a poll that basically pits each one individually, not with the opposite. It's called his no spoilers pledge. Was everyone saying, oh, he's just going to be the Democrats' version of Ross Perot. He's going to take all of Biden's secret ballots that'll show up later on, and all Joe will have are the baskets of ballots brought in by Mark Zuckerbucks. But he says that he wants this poll to be binding. So the agreement would be between the two campaigns that whoever in this poll does better against Donald Trump, mano a mano, would be, quote, the nominee. And that the other would drop out because that's what would happen. Now, here's a couple of things. So this is a publicity stunt, because he wants to do the poll. I'm sorry, I thought it was June, but he wants the poll to be in October, mid-October, which is after both political parties hold their convention. So already it's out the window. Secondly, most ballots will have already been put in, and Virginia will have already been voting, by the way. By mid-October, Virginia will already be well on into our election season. So this idea that there's somehow going to be a magical poll and then somebody can drop out, because at that point, not only are our ballots in Virginia already in the field, we're already casting them. I mean, it's an interesting concept, but let me go to our favorite place, which is 270 to win. 270 to win is really about the only place you should go for these things. And we'll get into the University of Virginia Center for Politics. That's the Larry Sabato Center of Crystal Ball Gazing and or navel gazing, if you want to. But the folks at 270 to win, of course, will show you, the presidential polls and where each state is. Do we have the map, the big map there? And they've already called all of these states. Virginia, you see, is blue there, and North Carolina's sort of red, and things like that. But they haven't called Georgia, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Nevada, or Arizona. And we've done this exercise with you already in the past. If you go to their presidential polls on the next page, you'll see in places like Georgia, President Trump's leading by 4 percentage points. In Arizona, it's almost 5 percentage points. The president's leading. President Trump's leading by 1.2% now. In Michigan, in the most recent polls, Nevada, he's leading by 4.3%. He's even leading by a slim margin in Pennsylvania, you see there. And in Wisconsin, it's now 2 full percentage points that the president is leading in that poll. So you see where, if you go back to the original 270 to win map, President Trump, if you give him all of those states, he already has 235 ballots that if you just started to fill them in, you could see that, where is it? There it is. Give him Georgia, give him Nevada and Arizona, and give him Michigan, and give him Wisconsin. You're at 293. If he takes Pennsylvania as well, that's 312. But let's just say that 0.2% could go to President Biden. It's at 293. But in none of these polls, zero, any of them that I was showing you from the presidential polls, California, RFK, 15%. And that isn't even all RFK. Then 16% in New York, 25% in Massachusetts. And if you're a Kennedy and you can't get more than that in Massachusetts, boy, 20% in Utah, 12% in Texas, 13% in Arizona. So what Kennedy is saying is he's saying, listen, can we eliminate all this voting stuff and let's just go to a nationwide poll, and that nationwide poll will tell us who should run. And his scenario, though compelling and certainly making for good copy, is chilling when you think that this is a guy who wants to be president and he wants to leave it all to a nationwide poll of 30,000 people.
Your Monday forecast calling for a slight chance of a shower early, then scattered showers and storms in the afternoon, otherwise cloudy, a high around 82. Monday night showers, maybe a thunderstorm before midnight, cloudy skies with a low of 63. Tuesday, chance of showers, then scattered showers and storms in the afternoon, mostly cloudy and 84. On Wednesday, much hotter, chance of showers and storms late day, mostly sunny with a high near 90. From BlueRidgeLife.com, I'm forecaster Tommy Stafford. Now back to Joe Thomas in the morning.
NBC News Radio, I'm Michael Kastner. Former President Donald Trump's criminal hush money trial picks back up this morning. He's accused of falsifying business records to cover up alleged payments to an adult film star prior to the 2016 election. Meanwhile, coming up later today, President Biden is set to welcome King Abdullah II of Jordan to the White House. The situation in Gaza likely high on the agenda. Millions.
You think? You think that's going to be on the? You think that's going to be on the agenda? Could be possible. You think they might mention some of the issues that are gripping the college campuses around the United States? As our friend Nick Freitas pointed out last week, he said, well, if death to America is what they covet on these university protests, at least we won't have to pay for their student loans. So shocked, I know you are shocked to hear that Henry Cuellar, the renegade, if you will call him that, is certainly an unusual case of a Democrat stepping out against other Democrats. He has been indicted for ties to Azerbaijan, saying that he took money from the former Soviet republic to create legislation and to make a speech on the floor of the U.S. House of Representatives in support of Azerbaijan. And yet, Hunter Biden gets to come and go as he please. Cuellar and his wife were straight up arrested over the weekend. He issued this statement over the weekend. He said, we are innocent of these allegations. Everything I have done in Congress has been to serve the people of South Texas. Before I took any action, I proactively sought legal advice from the House Ethics Committee, who gave me more than one written opinion, along with additional opinions from a national law firm. I don't know if he means action on behalf of Azerbaijan or just action in this particular case. But he says, furthermore, he's requested a meeting with the D.C. prosecutors to explain the facts, and they refuse to discuss the case with us or listen to our side. The payments alleged to the couple initially went through a Texas-based shell company called owned by Imelda Cuellar and two of the couple's children, according to the indictment. The indictment then goes on to charge that company received payments from an Azerbaijani energy company of $25,000 per month under a quote, sham contract, that's the words from the indictment, purportedly in exchange for unspecified strategic consulting and advising services. The indictment also goes on to state, in reality, the contract was a sham used to disguise and legitimize the corrupt agreement between Henry Cuellar and the government of Azerbaijan, and besides, he didn't do what the leader of the Democratic Party wanted him to and kept speaking out against the border. No, actually, I added that last bit in there because I'm sure you all wake up this morning just aghast that somebody like Henry Cuellar could all of a sudden find himself indicted for these kind of things. Yet Hunter Biden goes free. Hunter Biden can frolic freely through the world as only Hunter Biden can frolic. And, I'm not saying, every case is different, and that's completely understandable. I'm not sitting here and saying that Hunter Biden's case is exactly the same as Henry Cuellar's. But who had May 5th in the poll? Who had Cinco de Mayo as the date that Henry Cuellar would have to pay the piper for stepping out against the democratic orthodoxy of open borders in Texas? It certainly seems coincidental that this fellow, who I can recall many of you, and I understand you can't take live phone calls right now, but you can call at 434-882-4217, or you can email jtinthemorningradio@gmail.com and make your comments on this. But I heard from you back when Henry Cuellar first started to step out against the Democratic Party orthodoxy. And many of you said, we should be concerned. We should be contributing to a legal fund because at some point the lawfare will come down crashing on Henry Cuellar's head. And understand, if Henry Cuellar was taking money from a foreign government, like the New Jersey Senator Menendez, then he should be in trouble for it. But understand the grander subtext of what's at play here. See, this is multifaceted, because this also plays into the hands of those who want to say the system is broken. And why do they say that? Because they want a new system. They want a system that they control, a system that's much more authoritarian, a system where it's like one man, one rule. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, of course, on this Holocaust Remembrance Day. But that one man, one rule, centralized planning, authoritarianism, that's what they want. That's what they want. That's the goal. So the more they allow this human attraction to greed and power to take greater and greater control and hold, the more it proves their point that we need to get rid of this whole Constitution thing, get rid of this whole Bill of Rights thing. You had your fun, you had a nice run. It's now time for grown-ups to come in and tell you what you're supposed to do. That's what this all boils down to, is that if Henry Cuellar was guilty of these things, or guilty of anything besides standing up against the Democratic Party orthodoxy of open borders, if Henry Cuellar is guilty of any of this stuff beyond just standing up to Hakeem Jeffries, who, by the way, over the weekend said that they're governing, they're actually in charge, they have been for some time now, governing as the majority party. Remember, the firm of Jeffries, Johnson, Schumer, and McConnell, these four people write all the rules anyway. They write all the legislation. They propose all the legislation. So what's the difference one way or the other. It's four people deciding for 435 what's going to be voted on. But these offices become corruptible because they have authority beyond the restrictions that were originally put in place by them. So if you want to clean up the corruption, you have to clean up the power that these offices hold. These congressional offices and Senator Menendez's offices and all these places that have been supposedly corrupted by bribery to move federal monies into different pockets aren't supposed to have that kind of power. There isn't a restriction on that authority because it's new. It's when it was concocted, it was under some plausible, well, we need to do blah, 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 blah. And once we've done blah, 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 then there has to be obviously somebody making the decisions as to who gets to do these things. So write it up into a form and we'll vote on it and we'll give ourselves the power to hand out other people's money. See the 16th Amendment. Because if you don't give us your money, you will join Henry Cuellar and his wife in custody. And you'll have a much worse go of it than he will. Because if you don't give the IRS what they're expecting, you will meet some investigators. And they will have questions for you. So I know that many of you are sitting there going, Henry Cuellar, really? And your shock is really going to be driven by how long it took to get there. Meanwhile, Agent Smith and his case against Donald Trump are having issues because apparently some of the documents in the case were either miscategorized or straight up made up out of whole cloth. So the president has called on the case to be completely thrown out. The Epoch Times reporting that the president has called on the entire Smith case to be thrown out because documents were not there that were supposed to be there. Agent Smith's team wrote that the order of items within the boxes collected at Mar-a-Lago were, quote, not the same as they appear in the digital photographs of materials after the FBI obtained the boxes from President Trump's home in August of 2022. Quote, since the boxes were seized and stored, appropriate personnel have had access to the boxes for several reasons, including to comply with orders issued by this court in the civil proceedings noted above for investigative purposes and to facilitate the defendant's review of the boxes. Agent Smith's team told District Judge Aileen Cannon. They added that, quote, some of the boxes were where the order of items within that box is not the same as the associated scans of those documents. Plausible explanations to why the documents don't match up to what was originally brought into custody. Judicial Watch suggests that Agent Smith's classified documents case against President Trump should be tossed after this admission that the documents, Walt Nauta and Carlos de Oliveira, also charged in the case. Judicial Watch Tom Fitton writes that an FBI admission that the agency has completely screwed up the classified documents custody. Now, chain of custody may not be, these days, chain of custody over legal documents is, it's a movable feast. It was see the chain of custody over ballots themselves. So you may say, oh, I don't know, Joe, you're grasping at straws. I'm just reporting to you what Tom Fitton did over the weekend.
Your Monday forecast calling for a slight chance of a shower early, then scattered showers and storms in the afternoon, otherwise cloudy, a high around 82. Monday night showers, maybe a thunderstorm before midnight, cloudy skies with a low of 63. Tuesday, chance of showers, then scattered showers and storms in the afternoon, mostly cloudy and 84. On Wednesday, much hotter, chance of showers and storms late day, mostly sunny with a high near 90. From BlueRidgeLife.com, I'm forecaster Tommy Stafford. Now back to Joe Thomas in the morning.
Joe Thomas in the morning. Thank you for joining in, letting us be of service to you at 434-882-4217. That's the phone number. Emails come into jtinthemorningradio at gmail.com. I mentioned this story, and I find this to be interesting. In Missouri, a school division is paying parents to drive their kids to school. Now, Central Virginia has been gripped with a school bus driver shortage ever since they started to invoke ESG standards on the school bus drivers, making them ostensibly social workers and hamstringing their ability to do anything while at it. So we had a massive retirement of school bus drivers in Central Virginia after their woke agenda started to be invoked on the school bus drivers, being told you can't do this, you can't do that, can't do the other thing, but you can't let the other kids do anything either. And so school bus drivers said, you know what, I was doing this for extra money, I'm mostly retired anyway, I am out of here. And both the city of Charlottesville, Albemarle County especially, had a huge school bus driver shortage. So in Missouri, what one of their school districts is doing is taking taxpayer money to pay parents to drive their kids to school. And this is, aside from just sitting there saying, hold on a second here, they're going to, what? Aside from that, this is indicative of what's gone and where we are in our teetering to whose kids are they. I know you say, well, come on, Joe, we know whose kids they are. They're the parents' kids. Are they? Look at the battle over Glenn Youngkin's election to governor of Commonwealth of Virginia. Governor Youngkin said parents should have authority over their kids. Terry McAuliffe said, no, they shouldn't. And a lot of parents said, yeah, I normally vote for Democrats, but he's wrong on this one, and voted in Glenn Youngkin, thus beginning the last 2 years of blood sport between the Democratic Party and any of their leaders and anything Glenn Youngkin wanted, because the teachers union is so powerful, and the necessity to control our children on this Holocaust Remembrance Day. Remember, it's about controlling children. Just saying. I mean, infer what you will. But on this story, it is not even a tacit admission that the schools believe they have the authority over the kids, and that the parents apparently are fine with the idea of turning that key over to the kids, to the point where the parents themselves have to be paid to drive their own children to school. So far gone has it fallen from the idea that they're your kids, aren't they? So far gone are we from that idea that they're your kids, you want them to go to school, get them there. So far down the rabbit hole of they're the school's children, and the teachers union just doesn't want to watch them all day 24/7. The teachers union wants to go home at 5, so you better take over at 5. So you are, for the most part, being paid. And there's plenty of instances where you can say, what do you mean by being paid, Joe? Well, look at the earned income tax credit. EITC in and of itself is payment from the government to look after their children in the evenings. The authority is that we are the school and we have your kids, our kids, and we will raise them the way we decide, and you just keep an eye on them in the evening. And if you can't even feed them, we'll pay for that too. Parents have devolved in our society into nothing more than babysitters for the government's children. Oh, sure, they need us to create them, because, let's face it, engaging in Congress is not something I want anyone who's engaged in Congress to be. But biologically speaking, they need us to create the children, but then they'll take the children. President Biden himself suggested that government-run preschool should begin at the age of 2. Notice they don't want those first 2 years of diaper changing. Oh, and tell me you haven't seen the video this past weekend tearing through social media of President Biden stopping, I believe that's the Ellipse outside of the White House, with Dr. Jill walking towards Marine One, and he stops, and the video is there, and every parent of a toddler knows what this stance means, because he stops and he goes. And it's very funny. I don't know how the video is. It may have been edited or not, but it's a very, because anyone who has raised small children knows what happens when a child stops in the middle of a walk and just stands there for a few moments, kind of in a weird posture. Gonna be a diaper changing time. But notice this, so the federal government doesn't want your kids before they're 2, but maybe by 2 they're starting to get potty trained. So now we can take them and start indoctrinating them. And this Missouri school and their plan, and I'm not overblowing it, but their idea that maybe we could pay the babysitters, the night nannies, to bring the kids back to us in the morning. Because that's the relationship now. The biological parents are just the night nannies. They're the people to look after the kids when the paid government staffers want to go home. They want to go home because they're tired of the little nits, and they want some time off. And the union says they get to clock out. So while the unionized rearers of your children go home at 5, your job is to take care of them. And now in Missouri, they will actually continue. They will pay you more now if you'll bring them back to us in the morning. And I read the story, and I'm sitting here thinking, my God, this is how far we've fallen into this relationship between the government schools and the parents. it really is the schools that believe the children are theirs, and that they must pay somebody to bring them to us. Because if you ask for the money that the school division is going to spend on, even if you just ask for half of the money that the school division is planning on spending on your child, which in Virginia can get as high as $16,000, $18,000 per pupil. Even if you ask for just half of that, which, by the way, would pay for most of the private schools in the area, you're called a heretic. You're investigated. You're investigated for child endangerment. If you speak out at a school board meeting, you're put on a watch list by the government for domestic terrorism. Tom writes in from Nelson County, there's a reason we've homeschooled since day one. You can post your comments. Again, you can call 434-882-4217. If you leave a voicemail, then we'll play it back into the course of the proceedings, or you can send an email to jtinthemorningradio@gmail.com. But you can also make a comment. I have it now, or our Rumble feed. If you make a comment and you're watching on Rumble, if you make a comment there, it gets emailed to me, and I can see the YouTube chat room there as well. So you can post, you can make comments, you can draw funny pictures, whatever you may. But this is, as I've said, it's an admission, because the unions only want to take care of the kids so much, but the government, on the other hand, wants the kids working. So the unions are in a box. Randy Weingarten and the teachers' unions are in a little bit of a box, because they need the federal government to be taking our kids from us at the age of 2. That's what President Biden wants. 2 years old. Barely out of diapers, says the guy who looks like he's pausing for a cause in his depends on what he was thinking, I guess. But just let that rattle around in your head, that along with EITC and all the other things that the government pays you to nanny the kids, the night nannies, for their children. So they'll handle the breakfast, they'll give them breakfast, they'll give them lunch, in some cases they'll even give them dinner, but at nighttime the union wants to go home, so they need you to be the night nanny. And they've already, for years, for decades, I mean, my oldest is 30. There's always that EITC money. That's your night nanny money. That's the money the government gives you to look after their kids when the union teachers want to go home. And now the St. Louis schools are saying, well, you know what, we kind of need the night nanny to drive them back to us, so we're gonna have to give the night nanny a little bit extra. It's just, it's gone too far. But this is again why they have to demagogue the homeschool movement. They have to look at the money follows the child's school choice programs in places like Virginia. And they have to manage to pay off Republicans to fight Republicans, to divide the conservatives against one another, to vilify Glenn Youngkin for, not allowing the great champion of democracy or democracy, Terry McAuliffe, to win his second term that he was promised in the governor's mansion. This is why it's been such blood sport regarding Governor Youngkin, because anything Governor Youngkin's tried to do towards money follow the child, school choice, and parents' authorities, the Department of Education, aside from the people he's appointed in there, have completely ignored it. The schools aren't listening to him. The schools have told people, but we're not listening to that. Fairfax, Loudoun, Albemarle, all of these schools have said, we've got satanic cult clubs to launch. We don't need to be listening to Governor Youngkin and his silly little ideas about parents' choice. You mean the night nannies?
Your Monday forecast calling for a slight chance of a shower early, then scattered showers and storms in the afternoon. Otherwise cloudy, a high around 82. Monday night showers, maybe a thunderstorm before midnight. Cloudy skies with a low of 63. Tuesday chance of showers, then scattered showers and storms in the afternoon. Mostly cloudy and 84. On Wednesday, much hotter. Chance of showers and storms late day, mostly sunny with a high near 90. From BlueRidgeLife.com, I'm forecaster Tommy Stafford. Now back to Joe Thomas in the morning.
NBC News Radio, I'm Michael Kastner. The criminal hush money trial for former President Trump is back in action today. More from Chris Coraggio.
On Friday, Trump's former press secretary says Trump was concerned about his wife's reaction to a news story detailing a hush money deal with a Playboy playmate. The Wall Street Journal broke the story days before the 2016 election about payments to Karen McDougal to conceal an alleged affair with Trump. On the witness stand last week, Hope Hicks said Trump even made sure newspapers weren't delivered to his and Melania's home the morning the story ran. Trump is accused of falsifying business records to cover up payments to adult film star Stormy Daniels prior to the 2016 election.
All right, none of this comes with any. This is all testimony, and they just catch you up on where they are in this. That is all. Where we are with the testimonies of the witnesses. Hicks also went on to say that the campaign was in panic mode over the Access Hollywood video, the Billy Bush of the Bush family, of the Jeb Bush family, and his video showing Donald Trump talking coarsely about one of the co-hosts, that he was frustrated, that he was impressed that Billy Bush was betting there. But as that goes on around the world, today is the Holocaust Remembrance Day, and we need to commemorate this, I think, more so than ever before, because on this Holocaust Remembrance Day, it is also the day that we've watched protesters take over our college campuses. And in many cases, as here at the University of Virginia, pictures here over the weekend, when an unlawful assembly was called and tear gas and arrests were used to clear the campus, then Sunday they were back. But why would we connect these two things together on this Holocaust Remembrance Day? I don't know. Of course, that's the Grand Mufti along with Adolf in 1941 at the Reich Chancellery in Berlin. Just saying. But remember something about the Holocaust and why the Holocaust needs to be remembered more than just for these reasons. But the Holocaust needs to be remembered because it was about the authoritarians who needed to point out an enemy. They needed to point out an enemy so that they could get the rest of the population to stop being so panic-stricken about being poor. They needed an enemy that they could say, look, these are the people who have made you poor. I say this in the continued development of the idea of greedflation. More stories this weekend in the press of companies who are being accused by their federal regulators of gouging in this crisis. And understand, gouging is a very important and very specific word. because gouging infers that because of a crisis, you are inappropriately or unfairly increasing your prices, and it comes with criminal penalties. And is it the same level as what they were saying about the Jewish communities in Berlin in the late 30s and early 40s? No, not quite there yet. But there was a point when it wasn't quite there yet, before the trains started to go to Buchenwald and Auschwitz. There was a point when it was just like, you know, these guys, they're doing okay, these shop owners. And understand something about Marxism and, you know, why Marxism is important. And no idea why I would be showing you this picture of the Grand Mufti and Adolf as we talked about Marxism. And what you need to understand about Marxism is that it always needs that villain. It needs the abjectly poor to view the middle class as the greedy rich people. So that the authoritarians, the people that want to hold dictatorial power over humanity and debase humanity and treat them like chattel for their own purposes, people like that, need to first convince the poor, and in many cases some could say not a bug but a feature, where these societies create this kind of abject poverty. Munchausen's by government, as I've pointed out in the past. So first you create this poverty. Now, to be fair, prior to the Holocaust, the poverty was in many ways created by the co-signatories to the Treaty of Versailles. Treaty of Versailles was a capitulation, was a compromise, where the European countries wanted to go back to occupying Germany, as France had done in the past. They wanted to go back to occupying Germany. They thought German independence was obviously a bad thing because of look at what happened in World War I. And the United States, Woodrow Wilson et al., were trying to convince them, no, that's the old way. This is the 20th century now. We don't occupy other people's countries. We don't invade other people's countries unless you're Russia, and then we'll come up with a new way to do it. And so France and England said, okay. And they created this punitive Treaty of Versailles that in many ways created the German economy and then allowed the Nationalist Socialist Party of Germany, which existed. People forget that the Nationalist Socialist Party of Germany existed before World War I. But it gave them the fertile soil for them to grow into. So, you know, when the Nationalist Socialist Party sat down with the Islamists, that's long since, I mean, that's 20 years, 30 years since the Nationalist Socialists started to grow in that fertile soil of economic decline. So, Munchausen's by government syndrome, you create a situation where free people are becoming more and more poor. You start to put into their head the idea that if you're poor, you're not really free. And then, once they get riled up enough about being poor, faster than you can say Lyndon Johnson's Great Society, you point to the middle class and say, look, these greedy oligarchs, they're the ones who have made you poor. And am I trying to draw some comparison to where we are now in the world? There was a point, probably in the early 30s, where people in Germany, if talk radio had existed in Germany in the early 30s, where people were saying, hey, could it be something else? Could it be something other than the shop owner? I mean, he's a nice guy. He doesn't seem like a bad guy. He's charging me what it costs. But you see, that's what happens is you devolve your society this way. Blair writes in on the YouTube channel, as we were talking about public schools in the last segment, and the night nannies, which really, if you look at how our society is broken down, parents aren't parents anymore. We're just the night nannies for the public educators, the children's real guardians. The public school unions, Randy Weingarten et al., guardians of the progeny. And we're just the night nannies who get an EITC grant for looking after these little nits when the union teachers want to go home. Public school. I own part of every student in Virginia because I help pay the tuition. Shouldn't I have a say in your kids' education? If they belong to you, then you would pay their tuition. Well, certainly, and that's the conceit that's been taken aside, and this is just really, Blair, your adult lifetime and mine, the idea that we can all fund a school, but it's just an optional school. See, when I was a kid, most of the people in my neighborhood didn't go to public school. I was the weird one in my neighborhood that went to the public school. Most families did pay for their kids to go to school somewhere. But little by little, the idea of public school became important to a lot of different groups. And I don't want to expound on this too far, but it begins with real estate. See, it helps sell real estate if you have good schools. How do you have good schools? Well, you spend a lot of money on schools because you really can't tell if you have a good school or not when somebody's trying to move from there to here. But you can see how much they spend on each child. So the annual expenditure per pupil became the virtue signal that said, we care about kids because we spend $16,000 a year on kids. And where do they get that money? Well, they don't get it all from the local taxpayer. They count on Virginia and the federal government to kick in their share. Because you only own a very, very, very small part of every Virginia student. And if I understand correctly, you're in Waynesboro, so very, very little of your money actually is even used in Waynesboro. No, your money goes to Richmond and it's shared because poor communities were staying poor communities, and the 14th Amendment said that's not fair. So what we then had to do was take all the money out of the local communities, have a little bit, and then have a great, what we call in Virginia, the composite index. The composite index is so the Virginia government can keep it fair. Hey, keep it fair. It's like Rodney Dangerfield in Caddyshack. Hey, keep it fair. So Virginia, in an effort to keep it fair, has what they call a composite index, so that poor communities, rather than having anyone be concerned with how did we get poor and how do we stop being poor? No, we just send you more money. Sean writes in, it's always been a local issue until Jimmy Carter added the Department of Education to his cabinet. Comrades in arms to this day. It's a completely unnecessary department with a police department now and a court system. Just yet another cabinet secretary, one of the knights of the realm of these elected monarchs. And we're going to go through this again. 3 men trying to be the elected monarch of the United States. We told you RFK has called on President Biden to engage in a nationwide poll, and whichever one of them does better against Donald Trump should be the, quote, nominee, or the other one should drop out. It's a silly guy. Oh, my goodness. Oh, you're so cute, RFK.
Your Monday forecast calling for a slight chance of a shower early, then scattered showers and storms in the afternoon. Otherwise cloudy, a high around 82. Monday night showers, maybe a thunderstorm before midnight. Cloudy skies with a low of 63. Tuesday chance of showers, then scattered showers and storms in the afternoon. Mostly cloudy and 84. On Wednesday, much hotter. Chance of showers and storms late day, mostly sunny with a high near 90. From BlueRidgeLife.com, I'm forecaster Tommy Stafford. Now back to Joe Thomas in the morning.
Joe Thomas in the morning. Thank you for letting us be of service to you. And it is time for us to head to Mac McDonald's notebook, where he's scribbled furiously and drawn a few doodles in there. Good morning, Brother Mac. How are you doing, sir?
You gave me the sign-in or whatever. I went to Rumble this weekend. And, was watching my smiling face, and I get older by the minute. But it was fun to see, God, Joe, you're so innovative. It's so good. You're doing such a big job. No, it's so good. Anyway, I found Rumble, and, we'll just continue to move on. Anyway, April showers bring May flowers. I think my dad used to say, spring is sprung, grass is riz. I wonder where the birdies is. I think I told you that a couple of weeks ago. That was my dad. Anyway, May also means Mother's Day, Memorial Day, and the NCAA's for spring sports. All right, both the Virginia men's and women's team schedules will continue. The Cavalier men earned a 6th seed and will host St. Joe's on Saturday. The Cavs are one of 4 Atlantic Coast Conference teams in the 16-team field, joining number 1 seed Notre Dame, number 2 seed Duke, and number 4 seed Syracuse. So a lot of ground after the debacle that was Friday in the ACC tournament by the Virginia lacrosse team. All right, on the women's side, UVA is a 5 seed and will host LIU in the first round Friday at 3. That's a 29-team field, which features JMU, Richmond, and the ACC's Duke, Carolina, Notre Dame, Boston College, Syracuse, and Notre Dame. Wow. They got one side of the bracket is 12, the other side is 14 teams, and they got 3 teams waiting. Just kind of weird. The tennis teams are moving on. 2 4-love sweeps, and the women's team followed suit, sweeping LIU and Princeton. So the men move on, and then the women's did the same thing. And if that's not enough, the women's golf team opens the NCAA tournament today in the state of Washington. I think it's pronounced Clay Alum. I'm guessing that's where the regional is. Okay. I've never heard of it. Anyway, the softball team has the 4 seed in the ACC tournament. Okay, now a couple things. We'll get to the Cavaliers. Donovan Mitchell, they were down 18 in the first half at home yesterday and won. And I'll get to that in a second. The Nats win 11-8. Eddie Rosario breaks an 8-8 tie in the 11th. It's a series win for the Baby Nats.
1-0 pitch. Swing a fly ball, right center field and deep. This one's way back. It's got a chance. It's going, and it's gone. Eddie Rosario did it. His biggest hit as a National is a 2-run homer. And the Nationals are back in front 10-8.
Yeah,
what a
so
huge
good win
hit
for
that
them.
is for him.
Orioles sweep the Reds in Cincinnati 11-1 and overtake New York atop the AL East. Baltimore's 23-11. Guess what? The Beltway battle is Tuesday and Wednesday. Mm-hmm. So Baltimore goes to the net. So, that's fun. Okay, that's where interleague play. Don't get me started. It's May. Do this July 4th. I've always said, long weekend. Get all your interleague play out of the way. It just doesn't make sense. All right, NBA basketball last night, if anyone cares. Cleveland outscored the Magic. I do a little bit just watching Orlando. 63-41 in the second half. Donovan Mitchell had 24 in the second half. He had 39. Now, according to the NBA, Cleveland's comeback the largest in a Game 7 since the league began tracking play-by-play in 97 and 98. While eating snow cones on July 3rd. But anyway, they were magical in the second half. And Donovan Mitchell steps up to the mic in the postgame and goes, I don't want to be disrespectful, but it's on to Boston.
Yeah, right.
He just said, and he had the little speech in the locker room saying, look, the Cavs will begin the second round on the road. And so anyway, Boston went 2-1 against Cleveland this year. So anyway, that's that side of the bracket is set. All right. Over the weekend, I was at a little place, and you're going to love this. Typical name for a Florida sports bar, Caribbean Jacks. Okay, it rocks like it sounds. Okay, with the best plate of nachos I've ever had, including banana peppers, sweet and sour chicken, and some sauce that it's on top of chips. Okay. I ordered that right before the Derby bell. Okay. I hadn't really followed the Derby, so in the last hour, in the hour before. By the way, they had a 3 or 4 hour pregame show, and we're sitting at the watering hole right on the river. It's a beautiful place. It's a place in Daytona, and I heard so they went to a shot of the announcers with all these flowers behind them, and the lady said, "What is this? Are we watching a funeral?" And I said, "Ma'am, no." I said, "No, this is Run for the Roses." I go, "It's Derby Day, all the hats and everything and all the." Anyway, with all that being said, I have said there's two things that I never, ever got to do in this story. Well, it's not story, bad adjective. In the long career that I had, there were two things I wanted to do. I drove a race car, but that box is checked. I wanted to call a horse race to see how difficult it really is. Okay.
Sure.
And I wanted to call like a professional hockey game and never got to that because I wanted to be, Doc Emmerich. All right. So after the run, didn't really get to hear the TV. We just kind of watched it. And I came home and then started to dive into YouTube because I wanted to hear the call from start to finish. Larry Colomus is a guy's name. And so they have an inset. Sometimes they'll do an inset of a play-by-play guy and watch him work. Whoa, it's so good. So I brought to the table so people, if you didn't hear the call, and it was a fantastic finish, okay, from Mystic Dan, this is the final 16th. Listen to Larry Colomus on the call. It is fabulous. Okay, here it is.
Coming by the 16th pole, and Mystic Dan is now come through on the inside. It is Mystic Dan down toward the inside with the lead in the final 16th. Forever Young, Sierra Leone is coming. These three coming down to the wire. Who's it going to be? Oh, it's a photo of the Derby. Oh, it's a photo. Was it Mystic Dan or was it Sierra Leone?
So good, and he's got the binoculars. He's got like a music stand. Naturally being a play-by-play guy, I like to see how he does it. And it was so good. I just can't tell you, because I can't imagine. To me, I guess you got to know all the horses. First of all, you got to memorize.
Sure, yeah.
I mean, you have your sheet there, but you can't keep going to it because you'll get behind. You want to. I think the guys that do horse races are fabulous. So. Interesting enough, not that this ties in, Joe, but there's a movie there was a movie I saw. I can't remember one of the apps. It doesn't make any difference. The movie is called Boys in the Boat.
Oh, yeah, the new one.
The new one.
Hanks, right? Hanks is in it, yeah.
No, Tom Hanks is not. No. Oh. In fact, it's people I never really known. But it's a story of a young man can't afford school during the Depression. Winds up with gets a little money because he can help the crew team, and crew apparently is really, really big at that time, coming out of World War I, and it's before World War II, and it's like the early 30s, and they have to travel from Washington to Poughkeepsie in Jersey. They beat these Ivy League schools. It's the junior varsity 8, by the way. It's the boat that's not supposed to be doing as well. They get the Olympic bid. And I don't want to give it away for people who see it.
Spoilers. No.
I know. Close your ears or turn it off if you want. But one of their kids gets sick. He gets well, and it's just there was a photo finish, and it shows how the photo finish. The guy had to run up, and he's in a dark room, and it takes about it takes
takes
like
a lot
5
longer
minutes for
than-
him to
yeah.
produce the photo finish.
Wow.
Everybody's in the water. They're all waiting, and they're sitting there. And so the guy's going to announce. He sits, and in the movie, of course, they're doing it. In the movie, he looks. America wins, So it was a true story, and then naturally they show the pictures of the real team, but it was done very well.
Well, and bringing it full circle, I mean, you were talking about the non-revenue teams and the tournaments that are all coming up.
Right.
I mean, Virginia just dominates, the boys and the girls in the boat. It is just
Kevin Sauer is an institution. An institution.
But
bar none, they should have a statue of Kevin Sauer somewhere, because we used to watch, and when Title IX hit, I mean, they get like, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm probably close to this, they get like 35 scholarships for the women's side, because they had when Title IX and when everybody was trying to balance scholarships, especially against football. And the women's team, and they recruit and they recruit and they recruit, and they know what they're looking for. But Kevin Sauer, who listens to you a lot, I think, but Kevin Sauer is just an institution, keeping everything together, and how they coach and how they. So it takes you inside. Like, how does a rowing coach coach? And that's what Boys in the Boat did. It was pretty interesting, actually watching film. Trying to break down and running the stopwatch,
and you realize, I mean, if you're off by a nanosecond, how much speed you lose. If I'm not in perfect coordination, I mean, that's one of the things they work on is you have to be in such unison in order to max out your speed.
Absolutely.
The least little you're off by 1/1,000,000th of a second.
I can't sit in a kayak with my wife. I mean, are you kidding me? And I'm supposed to be in a varsity 8 when I was in school. I mean, but that was another thing I told Kevin Sauer we were going to do when I was in Charlottesville, because they're up at the what is that river there?
Well, it's the Rivanna. It's the South Fork Rivanna, but they're in the Ragged Mountain Reservoir.
Right. Thank you. Yes. And so I told him, I said, I want to feel. Will your teams, one of your teams, and I wanted the female team actually, will you take me on a ride? I don't want to row really, but I want to feel what it's like and to watch them work. And we got close to doing that. I went to the dock a couple of times, and we were trying to figure out how to. But yeah, anyway, it opened up a whole new thing, and it was just an enjoyable movie to watch. After the debacle of the Brady roast, which was I had to turn off, but.
Yeah, and since did nobody explain to Tom Brady what a roast means? That they're going to be making fun of you, Tom. Don't get up and start telling people to stop.
They went after the whole Giselle breakup and her dating this karate guy, and
when they told me they were going to do a roast of Tom Brady, I said, "Is Tom going to be there? Because this just doesn't play into his image." Hey, by the way, on a related film watching note, we're looking for a comedy, and anything that has comedy in the title.
Right.
Most things are dramas and comedies. We watched The Holdovers this weekend.
Oh, yeah.
And a subtext through the whole movie is these kids at this prep school, Barton, they're all afraid of getting in trouble and being sent to Fork Union.
How about that?
All through the movie, it's like
a couple months ago.
I can't fail. I'll be sent to Fork Union. I'm like, hold it.
Oh my God!
Right down the street.
That's all right. They would have run into Don Mikowski. It would have been fine. The Magic Man was there, and he turned out pretty good. So,
yeah, I guess so. Good stuff, Matt. Good stuff as always. Thank you, sir.
Going to Fork Union. Yeah, that's so good.
I can't get kicked out.
I'll go to Intimate Fork Union. Yeah, military school was such a
that was a thing
at that time. Well, look. It's going to be that kind of week. So we start a new term. I got a big class, and so I hope you have a good week.
And by the way, Jim writes in on the YouTube channel, nobody should get into a kayak with their wife. So whatever that means.
I totally agree. So I told my wife, you want to kayak? Get our next door neighbor, have a good time. They spend $1 gazillion on this kayak, and I said, just go with her. You guys want to get on the water? Not with the Gators. I'm sorry. I have a fear of gators and bulls. The two, in the
won't
middle of
run.
the night, I've had nightmares. I will not get in a stream where there's gators jumping in off. No, I won't. I'm sorry.
Mike writes into jtinthemorningradio@gmail.com. He says, tell Mac the only way any crew team is going to let him participate is by putting him in a tube behind the boat and towing him along.
A dinghy. I would be the Varsity 8 official dinghy, and I'm if I'd have to lose some LBSs before I get in that boat anyway. So
I don't know. It'd be a good training thing. It's like running with weights.
I'm rowing. No, I'm rowing at home. I got a rowing machine now at home. So it's great. It's a great workout. So anyway. All right, brother.
Thank you, sir.
All right. See you soon.
Your Monday forecast calling for a slight chance of a shower early, then scattered showers and storms in the afternoon. Otherwise cloudy, a high around 82. Monday night showers, maybe a thunderstorm before midnight. Cloudy skies with a low of 63. Tuesday chance of showers, then scattered showers and storms in the afternoon. Mostly cloudy and 84. On Wednesday, much hotter. Chance of showers and storms late day, mostly sunny with a high near 90. From BlueRidgeLife.com, I'm forecaster Tommy Stafford. Now back to Joe Thomas in the morning.
Joe Thomas in the morning. Thank you for letting us be of service to you this morning, and any morning you do so through Rumble and YouTube and all the other places that you can get to us. And thank you for sharing sharing the so we've made from our videos a whopping $1.28. Don't tell my tax man that. But, emails come into jtinthemorningradio at gmail.com, or if you want to make a telephonic contribution, you can call 434-882-4217. It's interesting, sometimes the little stories, and as we triage through the news, and I flagged this story out of Missouri, where the school division has started to pay parents to bring their kids to school in the morning and pick them up in the evening. And I said, this has got legs. It's like it's an obscure story. It doesn't really have, but it has inflamed many of you. Tom writes in, Nelson County is spending over $20,000 per student. That is the virtue signaling, and they do that not to the education of the kids of Nelson County, Virginia. They do that so that somebody who's looking to move into Nelson County, Virginia, where Realtor.com or Trulia or any of these Redfin will tell, oh, look, your school report is, look at how much money they spend on students, Bob. And that's what they do it for. That's because there's nothing else but cash. Most of the scholastic achievement tests have been dumbed down to let more people pass in. This one from Keith writes in, night nannies, new word for parents. Thank you, Joe. I'm going to use that one throughout the week. Night nannies. That's what we are. We, in the eyes of the authoritarians, and I mean Republicans and Democrats alike, parents are nothing more than the night nannies now, because union teachers, they're not going to work after 5. So we need somebody to watch these little nits after the union teachers go home. I guess the biological ones who made them. I mean, we haven't quite become batteries yet, but at some point, somebody in the green agenda is going to watch The Matrix with one too many tequilas and go, oh, batteries. What if we And I just rewatched The Matrix and a couple of weeks ago, and it just struck me. I said, this is the green agenda. Never mind AI. We don't need AI to turn the human body into batteries. We need Greta Thunderpants to do that. But before we become batteries, we are just necessary biological creators of the children that the government must indoctrinate. And on this Holocaust Memorial Day, let's not forget who really started the idea of give me your kids and I will give you a whole neighborhood full of brown shirts. You know, I'm sure when they were naming it Hitler's Youth at the time, it probably seemed like a good name. Of course, now it's, ooh, you can't say that. The picture I think is appropriate on this Holocaust Memorial Day as we watch the protests on places like the University of Virginia grip the anti-Israeli protesters, the pro-Hamas terrorists hiding their face against Virginia laws, you see there. You know, I think it's important to remember, and this was Sunday, they were back on Sunday there, when those tents went up, because it's raining and I might melt in the rain. The university declared an unlawful assembly and came in and arrested 25 people at the University of Virginia grounds because they had a new group that hated the Jews. And I think it's important on Holocaust Memorial Day, aside from the irony of these universities gripped with protests, just to remind you, the Grand Mufti's visit in the Reich Chancellery back in 1941. But here we are, we the night nannies, as the government that says we must have your children. President Biden himself said that he wants to have government-run schools begin at the age of 2. Of course, they don't want them any earlier than that because diaper changing. And say what you will, I don't think a government. Well, yeah, I don't know. Does the Secret Service have to help the president with a very funny meme going around the internet of the president walking near the ellipse and just stopping, and as the meme says, any parent of a toddler knows what this posture means. And Dr. Jill's standing there like, "Come on, Joe, let's get to the helicopter." But the story of the St. Louis or the Missouri area school district paying parents to bring their kids to school, I think, shows their attitude towards the biological creators of these students. We are just now the night nannies. And now the night nannies will get a little bonus. We'll get a little bonus along with your EITC. EITC is really just your pay for being the night nanny for the government children. So I knew that story would inflame some folks. I want to pick up, and maybe we'll do it when we come back from break. Center for Politics was mansplaining polls in the wake of this RFK Jr. offer. And it publicity stunts are all well and good. I know publicity stunts, and I know that this was a publicity stunt for several reasons. Most notable is Robert F. Kennedy Jr. offered to co-conduct, along with the President Biden, a poll in October. And they would conduct a nationwide poll and allow 30,000 Americans to determine who the Democratic Party or who President Trump's opponent would be. They would ask 30,000 people. Do the math. No, I mean, somebody please do the math on the percentage of the population that turns out to be. I mean, we have 3 million voters. So they're going to ask 30,000 people to take a poll between Joe Biden and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., of course, didn't want to engage in a primary with Joe Biden, but he'll have this nationwide poll in October to determine who should drop out of the race. It's called his no spoilers pledge. Ask these 30,000 Americans who of these two would do better against Donald J. Trump. And whoever is second would drop out like a mensch. Problem with this is, of course, in mid-October, Virginians will already be voting. Probably can't do it then. And that's why it was a publicity stunt there. But the University of Virginia Larry Sabato Institute for getting Larry Sabato discussed in the news, mansplained polls, and we'll get into that coming up in here. Also, the latest, and we were just watching in the plane crash that fell in Fluvanna County, not far from us here in our studios. Is a lot of folks sitting there saying, well, hang on a second here, I think I may have heard that. This was the flight path of the plane that took off from Manassas Regional Airport, and you can see it as it comes southbound, and then right there kind of almost doubles back over Fluvanna County, and then continues to the crash site. The emergency crews, and there's some of the wreckage from the plane. Two persons perished in the crash, and their names have not been released yet because of next of kin to be notified. And so until that can be done, we won't know. But I have followers of this program on Facebook who've said that he was a family. The pilot was a family friend and a family pilot who I guess worked with their family quite frequently, and they're devastated by the loss of this plane that was flying down to South Carolina to the shores. But that's the latest from there. Still no information on the pilot's name or the passenger's name there as well. But we'll get any of that, but everything back to order in Fluvanna County. Many of the folks around here, because the crash site's only about 6 miles from our studio, said that they thought they heard thunder in a particularly violent bit of rainstorm that befell the area at about the same time, just before 9 o'clock on Sunday morning.
Your Monday forecast calling for a slight chance of a shower early, then scattered showers and storms in the afternoon. Otherwise cloudy, a high around 82. Monday night showers, maybe a thunderstorm before midnight. Cloudy skies with a low of 63. Tuesday chance of showers, then scattered showers and storms in the afternoon. Mostly cloudy and 84. On Wednesday, much hotter. Chance of showers and storms late day, mostly sunny with a high near 90. From BlueRidgeLife.com, I'm forecaster Tommy Stafford. Now back to Joe Thomas in the morning.
But are the polls we see representative of what we'll be seeing once the selection or the election rolls around? CBS 19's Garrett Whitten spoke to the UVA Center for Politics to find out what polls being cited right now should tell us. Garrett.
Yeah, Rick, J. Miles Coleman with the UVA Center for Politics says not to put all your faith in current polls because they aren't meant to be a predictor.
Polls are a snapshot.
Be careful when referring to poll numbers this far out from a presidential election.
They're not meant to be a crystal ball.
There's only 6 more months until votes will be cast in the 2024 general election.
It looks like Trump would be in store for, an electoral college win.
If you are looking at current poll numbers to see what may happen, J. Miles Coleman with the UVA Center for Politics says not to use them as a predictor.
Something that we've been emphasizing is that it's still very early.
But he doesn't think anyone else will throw their name into the race.
This is just one of the J. Miles Coleman theories, but I really don't think it's fully sunk in yet to the general public that these are going to be our two options.
Coleman says that polls may become more foreshadowing as the election gets closer. For now, he says a main challenge facing pollsters is the lack of responses they get.
I would say if it seems too good or too bad to be true, it probably is.
But there's a way to help.
A public service announcement, if you get a poll, take it.
By doing so, Coleman says it may help pollsters present a better picture.
And that's indicative of what the problem with polling data in general is that it's that right now the complaint is that nobody is answering those polls. Nobody is going to those polls, but I think they are. I think everyone I know, depending on who is calling to do the poll, is responding. Everyone I know that when somebody has called has given their opinion. But here's the thing. You've got two different types of polls, and this is where UVA's Center for Politics and their mansplaining on polls misses the boat. So you have public polling, which is the Ipsos, the NORC, and all these, the Quinnipiac University stuff. That's paid for by news organizations, or in some way, shape, or form traded for by news organizations, so that the ABC, NBC, CBS can have a poll to say, look, who's what, and it becomes a news story. It's clickbait for the most part. And then you have internal polls that should be done by campaigns to give them a thermometer as to where things are going. Are we losing here? Are we losing there? Those are interesting polls because generally, like opposition research, you're supposed to be finding out the nasty little bits that you don't want anyone to know about. Well, we just went through the real important polling data, which, if you remember correctly, is as far as I'm concerned, the 270 to win, because 270 to win is the polling of the statewide polls. They go in and they say, okay, well, what are the people in Virginia saying? What are the people in West Virginia saying? And so 270 to win has a poll situation for each state. They set them aside and they set them up so that you can take a look at your state and see where they are. Do we have the big map? So here's where we are right now. This is by polling data. You will see that President Trump has, what's the number? 293. Now you would understand by the name of the website, 270 to win. You only need 270 electoral votes to win. Now, technically, truth be told, we put Pennsylvania in the blue column, even though President Trump is actually leading there by a small amount. And if that small amount holds, that's over 300 electoral votes for the president. And all these states that if they reset the map, they don't claim that one party is leading, even though the president is leading by 4 percentage points in Georgia and Arizona and Nevada, and is up by a couple of percentage points in Michigan and Wisconsin as well. President Trump is. So the polling is a con game. It's designed to kind of manipulate public opinion. It's in many cases either designed to tamp down voter enthusiasm or gin it up. So if Biden is losing, then it's designed to get the activist class riled up so that they can get out there and stuff those ballot boxes. Because the authoritarians in this country still need to win the election. This is, as we said earlier, talking about the Department of Education and all the other cabinet ministers of this elected monarchy. Every 4 years, we're going to go through this until we rein in the executive branch. And I mean, whether it's a Republican or a Democrat, you're going to have this kind of blood sport because the president has this knighthood, these knights of the round table, riding out into the countryside, collecting our taxes, taking our money, regulating our businesses, each with their own police department and their court system. So there's extra constitutional activity going on in both cabinet departments. And until we rein it in, we are going to always have this. This is why they need to divide us, because they realize that once they've created poverty, which Lyndon Johnson has done, Lyndon Johnson here 60 years into the Great Society with 4 times, you've heard me say this before, 4 times as many poor people as a percentage of population living under the poverty level as there were when Lyndon Johnson started the Great Society. If this is a war on poverty, as it's been colloquially referred to as, I don't think it's going very well. Of course, our friend Clark will point out that socialism isn't a failure if you realize socialism's goal is to centralize power. But here is where socialism is failing. People are starting to realize that it doesn't do what it said it was going to do, which is give you what did Lyndon Johnson call it? Abundance. Where in the U.S. Constitution are you guaranteed abundance? We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and they are endowed by their Creator with life, liberty, and abundance? I don't think that's what the phrase was. Why, it was life, liberty, and property. We've dumbed it down for the Declaration of Independence. We the people, in order to form a more perfect union, never espousing to be a perfect union, establish justice. Have we seen justice? Or is justice now taking her blindfold off and we're going to punish the people we don't want in society? Establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility. How's that been going? Provide for the common defense. Ask the folks like Henry Cuellar when he gets out of jail, since he's been put in jail for standing up against the Democratic Party or against democracy. provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, that is, in its phraseology, to promote the idea that you can fare well and protect the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution of the United States of America. We wrap up again, a reminder that in the University of Virginia, 25 people were arrested over the weekend. A question was asked by Ken, who wrote into jtinthemorningradio@gmail.com. Are these folks going to spend as much time in jail as the folks who were in the U.S. Capitol building on January 6th, 2021? I would say odds not, since we saw actually that they were back at the university the next day. And of course, here's a fellow violating Virginia law, concealing his face from visual, and there they are Sunday. That's them again. That photograph was taken on Sunday at the University of Virginia. But I remind on this Holocaust Remembrance Day till sunset today. It began at sunset yesterday. This is what it looks like when the authoritarians need to pick out an enemy. They need you to hate one another, and much like the Klan did when they came to Charlottesville, and the last time we had an illegal assembly called, the Klan and the neo-Nazis that were gathering for David Duke's reunion concert at Lee Park. I remind this because, you know, as we see this going on, you say, gosh, this is just so eerily familiar. So as we finish up on this Holocaust Remembrance Day, aside from the irony of the fact that we're seeing these protests on college campuses around the area, from the river to the sea, the oppressed who hide their faces there, the oppressed must be addressed. But if you feel like this, that's for those who don't know the picture, that is the Grand Mufti meeting with Adolf Hitler, who you probably, right? If you don't recognize the guy on the right, that's the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem, Hajj Amin al-Husseini, photograph taken November 28, 1941, at the Reich Chancellery in Berlin, talking about the Nazis and the Islamic community working together. From the river to the sea. Take a moment and remember and keep these images in mind of what happens when authoritarians need to point out an enemy and then polarize a community to hate one particular group, especially those who are the business owners, for their crimes against humanity, their greedflation, and what it looks like today, and our connections. So long. Thanks for all the fish.